I wasn't supposed to be home. I'd made it halfway to work before realizing I'd left my phone charging on the kitchen counter. I debated turning back. Yeah, I could go without it for a few hours. But there was a meeting I couldn't miss, and all my notes were in my reminders app. That was the excuse I gave myself. The truth? I just felt weird leaving it behind, like going into battle without your armor. So I doubled back. Nothing dramatic, no storm clouds rolling in. Just a mid-morning return to a quiet house. The moment I walked through the front door, something was off. It hit me right away, that heavy kind of silence that doesn't sit right. You don't notice the usual sounds until they're missing. The hum of the fridge, the faint creak of pipes, the tiny sounds that make a house feel alive. This wasn't that. This was silence with weight. I stepped into the kitchen, and there it was, my phone, right where I'd left it, still plugged into the wall. I picked it up, screen lighting up with a couple of emails and a reminder about groceries. Nothing unusual, but I heard it then. Upstairs, water running. I paused, head tilted. It sounded like the shower. Not dripping, not accidental. A full, steady stream. Bathroom, for sure. That made no sense. Marcy had told me last night she had errands all morning, dropping off a package at the post office, then heading to the gym. She wasn't supposed to be home. No reason anyone should be upstairs using our shower. And that's when I heard it. A soft, distinct creak. Floorboard. We've lived in this house for 8 years. I know every sound it makes. And that particular creak? That was the hallway just outside the upstairs bathroom, right at the top of the stairs. The one I've stepped on 1,000 times, always trying to avoid when sneaking out early or checking on Layla when she was little. My stomach dropped. I told myself it was nothing. Maybe Marcy came home early. Maybe she forgot something too. Maybe. But I was already moving. Slowly, quietly, feet almost tiptoeing by instinct. I wasn't even fully aware I was holding my breath until I reached the bottom step and exhaled silently. Each step upward felt like a countdown. As I got to the landing, the water still ran. The door was cracked slightly open, steam curling out into the hallway like ghostly fingers. The mirror on the opposite wall, the one we hung 2 years ago during the bathroom remodel, caught my eye. And that's when I saw it. Just for a second, not long enough to take in details, but long enough for it to be real. A man, a silhouette behind the translucent shower curtain, not standing under the water, just behind it. Towel around the waist. Broad shoulders. Still. Frozen. Like he knew I was there. And then, just as quickly, the curtain moved. Not enough to reveal anything. Just a twitch, a shift. A hiding motion. I blinked. Took a step forward. My mind scrambled to come up with some explanation. Maybe it was a shadow. Maybe something had fallen off the shelf. But I knew what I saw. I knew. And that's when the door opened wider. Marcy stepped out into the hallway, wrapped in her white robe, the one she only wears when she's feeling extra restful, like she puts it. Her hair was wet, clinging in waves against her neck. Her face was calm. Too calm. Not startled. Not surprised. No, what are you doing home? Instead, she smiled. Soft. Casual. Hey, she said, like I had just walked in from the mailbox. I didn't say anything. I was still trying to figure out if I was imagining all of it. The reflection, the floorboard, the curtain. She didn't miss a beat. Oh, the water guy stopped by? Something about the upstairs line. Said he needed to check the pressure in the shower. She tucked a piece of damp hair behind her ear. I let him in through the garage. He just left, like, 2 minutes ago. She said it smoothly, effortlessly, too fast. I was still silent. You okay? She asked, her tone light. A little amused. You said you were running errands this morning. I finally managed. She smiled. I did. Got most of it done early. Figured I had time for a quick rinse before heading out again. I nodded slowly. And the water guy? Yup. Said they were doing routine checks for mineral buildup. She gestured toward the bathroom behind her. He was in and out. Didn't touch anything. I didn't move. Her eyes narrowed, just slightly. Is something wrong? No, I lied. Just surprised to see you home. Well, you too, she said with a chuckle. Did you forget something? My phone. She looked at my hand. Guess you found it. I nodded again. I couldn't get myself to look past her, toward the bathroom, toward the mirror, the curtain, whatever I thought I saw. Because here's the thing. Marcy didn't seem flustered. Not one hair out of place. Not a single word stumbled. Her face, her body language, composed. But it was too composed. Like a performance she'd rehearsed. She turned back, toward the bedroom. I'll get dressed real quick and head out. Don't want to miss the noon class. I stood there for a beat too long. Then I followed her into the bedroom. The bed was made a little too neatly. The kind of neat that says someone had just thrown the blanket back into place. The window was cracked. Our room never smells like much, maybe a little vanilla from her lotion, but this morning it was different. There was something else. A cologne I didn't recognize. Not mine. Not hers. Something musky. Expensive. Want coffee? She asked from the closet, already rummaging for clothes. I can start a pot before I go. I'm good. She didn't miss a beat. I stood in the doorway, watching her move like nothing was strange. Like this was just a regular Tuesday. But in my mind, things weren't adding up. Why didn't the guy come downstairs when I came in? Why didn't I hear a door close? And if he was just a utility worker, why did I see him in the shower, not just near it? And why the towel? More than anything, why did she already have the perfect excuse locked and loaded before I even asked a question? Because it wasn't just an explanation, it was ready. Too ready. Like she'd already imagined this moment playing out. Like she was prepared for it. I walked to the kitchen, my phone still in hand, and sat at the table. The water upstairs had stopped. I heard footsteps, hers, moving through the bedroom. Light. Relaxed. But in my chest, something cracked open. Just a little. A thought I didn't want to think. A question I didn't want to ask. Had something already been happening? Had I just caught the wrong moment? Or had I simply come home 10 minutes too early? After she left the room, I stayed seated at the kitchen table, staring down at the faint rings on the surface where our coffee mugs used to sit every morning. Same routine for years. She'd pour mine first, black with a splash of oat milk, then hers with too much cinnamon creamer. We'd talk about Layla, the grocery list, maybe gossip about a neighbor or two. Mundane stuff. Familiar. But this morning, I couldn't remember the last time we'd done that. I sat there for a long time, unmoving, phone in hand, but I wasn't checking it. The screen went dark. My reflection in it looked tired. Stupid, honestly, because now, sitting in that stillness, things began to surface. Memories. Moments. Little things I'd brushed off or buried or let slide because trusting her had become automatic. Reflex. But trust isn't reflexive. It's a choice you keep making. And somewhere along the way, I stopped choosing to ask questions. It started small. I think that's how these things always start. Like that week, she said she was going to start working out in the evenings. I'd encouraged it. She said it helped her clear her head. I bought her a new water bottle and some overpriced yoga gear she'd left open in her browser. At first, she came home glowing, red-faced and chatty. Then it shifted. She'd come in later. Tired. Less talkative. Hair barely damp, but smelling freshly shampooed. Hit the showers at the gym, she'd say, kicking off her shoes. Didn't want to stink up the car. I believed her. Then there was her phone. She used to be careless with it. Left it on the couch, on the kitchen counter, screen lighting up every time Layla sent another meme. But slowly, the phone started following her everywhere. Pocketed. Turned face down. Notifications muted. When I asked why, she said, "It's distracting. I'm trying to be more present." I thought, that's fair. That's mature. She also changed her lock screen password, just for security, she said. Something about work compliance. I didn't argue. I didn't want to be the paranoid husband. But the shift wasn't just in her habits. It was in the energy. That invisible current between two people when they know each other deeply. It had turned static. Like our connection was getting interference from somewhere else. Sometimes I'd talk and she'd nod along, smiling politely, but her mind was clearly elsewhere. Once I asked if she was listening, and she said, "Of course," but then she repeated back a sentence from a completely different part of the conversation. There was also that night, weeks ago now, when I woke up at 2:30 in the morning and she wasn't in bed. The bathroom light was on. I found her in there, wrapped in a towel, drying her hair. "I couldn't sleep," she'd said. "Figured I'd wash my hair. It's been gross lately." I didn't question it. But now I was starting to feel like a detective going through old evidence and suddenly realizing the crime had already happened. I just missed the moment it did. There was the time she went to Philly for that 3-day work conference. She posted one photo from her hotel, a blurry *T of the view, nothing in it that confirmed anything. She called me one night from the hotel bar, laughing about a bad jazz trio playing behind her. I remember her asking if I fed the dog. I remember how I couldn't hear anyone else in the background. No chatter, no music, just her voice, too close to the phone. And I remember when she got back, She was wearing a new bracelet I'd never seen before. "Oh," she said when I asked. "A vendor gave it to me. Swag bag gift. I bought that too." There were little things all over the place, like breadcrumbs scattered backward through time. One morning I noticed a deodorant in the bathroom trash that I didn't recognize. Not mine, not hers. It was a men's brand. I even picked it up and sniffed it like an idiot. A cologne-heavy scent. Musky, woody. "Sample from the gym," she said. "They gave them out in a basket." Right. She was good at answering before I could finish asking. That's the thing. She was never flustered. Always ready. And that should have been the red flag. People who are telling the truth fumble sometimes. They pause. They check in. Does that make sense? They don't have the script already memorized. But her responses were clean, precise, polished. Even this morning, the water guy, who says mineral buildup off the top of their head. And why would a utility worker be using our shower? Fully behind the curtain? With the door mostly closed? No clipboard, no boots, no noise on the stairs. No door closing behind him. Not even the garage opening or closing. He wasn't a worker. I'd seen him, just for a second, in the mirror. Broad shoulders, towel wrapped around his waist. Standing still, quiet, waiting, not fixing a pipe, not checking pressure, just waiting for the moment to pass, or for me to leave. And she had already written the cover story, probably rehearsed it in her head long before this morning. There was even something about the way she walked into the bedroom, casual as ever, hair wet but not dripping, robe tight, not flustered, not caught, just composed, like a performance, like muscle memory. As I sat at the kitchen table, I remembered the time Layla asked why Mom was acting so weird at dinner. That was maybe 6 months ago. Marcy had been on her phone all evening, then stepped away mid-meal to take a call. When she came back, her whole mood had shifted. She was flushed and giggling. I thought she was just tipsy from the wine. But Layla, sharper than I gave her credit for, asked, "Why does Mom laugh different now?" Different. Not louder. Not softer. Different. Even our daughter noticed. That hit me hard. I leaned back in the chair, letting the quiet of the house settle over me. Upstairs, the shower had stopped. The bedroom was still. She was probably blow-drying her hair, reapplying makeup, getting ready to go back out and finish her gym errands, or meet him again. Or maybe she was texting him right now, telling him to wait until I left. That thought made me feel like I was sinking into the floor. But deeper than the anger, deeper than even the confusion, was the shame. Not hers. Mine. Shame that I'd ignored the signs. That I'd explained away what didn't feel right. That I wanted to believe the version of her I married instead of the version who had been slowly replacing her. She hadn't changed overnight. She had just stopped hiding as carefully. And maybe I wasn't supposed to come home this morning. Maybe if I hadn't forgotten my phone, I'd still be sitting at work, sipping stale office coffee, sending her texts about what to make for dinner. She'd smile at her screen, tell him she had to go home to play house, and everything would have continued. But I did come home, and I saw the man in the mirror. Maybe I didn't see his face. Maybe I couldn't identify him in a crowd. But I saw enough. Enough to know the truth was standing just behind the curtain. And she had already moved on. She just hadn't told me yet. The next morning, the air in the house felt heavier. Like it had soaked up everything I hadn't said. Marcy was already in the shower when I woke up. That same water sound now meant something different. It didn't soothe me anymore. It scratched at my nerves. I lay there for a moment, staring at the ceiling, wondering what she looked like when she was texting him. Did she smile at the screen? Did she pause to reread his messages like she used to with mine? Was he clever? Younger? Did he know about me? Of course he did. He knew everything. I got up slowly, still groggy, still half hoping I'd misread everything. That maybe it really had been a utility guy? That maybe Marcy was distant because life had gotten busy and not because someone else was warming the side of the bed I barely got to anymore. But that reflection in the mirror, that wasn't a guess. That was fact. That image was now a watermark behind everything else. So I decided to do something I hadn't done in over a decade of marriage. I invaded her privacy. I'm not proud of it. It felt wrong. Like trespassing in my own home. But what do you do when you're drowning in doubt and no one's throwing you a rope? She had forgotten about her old iCloud account, or at least forgotten that I once helped her set it up when she got her first iPhone. She had moved on to a newer email, newer devices, but some remnants of that account were still synced to the family laptop. I sat in the dim office, blinds still drawn, the cursor blinking like it was daring me to cross a line. I typed in her old email, tried a few passwords, her childhood dog, Layla's birth date, the street we lived on in our 20s. On the fourth try, I was in. The inbox was mostly junk, expired promotions, old receipts, fitness newsletters she never read. I almost gave up. But then I clicked on Messages, a synced backup from her previous phone. There, nestled among forgotten conversations with her sister and old PDA threads, was a single message thread from someone saved only as G. No photo, no last name, just that one letter. I clicked it open. At first, it was small stuff. Flirty banter, quick notes, a thinking about you here, a wish I could see you there. And then, something that shifted the weight in my chest. Keys still under the fake stone by the garden hose. Just let yourself in when he's at work. I read that line twice. My throat went dry. Then came more. Tonight was perfect. I needed that more than you know. He bought that new robe you like. You should wear it next time. There was a picture attached to that last message. My hand hesitated before I clicked. It loaded slowly, as if it knew how badly I didn't want to see it. It was her, Marcy, reclining on our bed, hair damp, the same white robe barely tied, a faint smile on her face like she was mid-laugh. I recognized the pillow. My side. I recognized the comforter, the one I'd picked out last Christmas because she said the old one was too scratchy. She'd taken that photo in our room. Days ago. I scrolled back, looking for timestamps. They matched her last business trip, a 3-day marketing summit in Albany. She'd called every night, said the hotel was boring, food was terrible, coworkers were annoying. Meanwhile, she was right here, in our house, with him. I read more, the texts taking on a rhythm, a schedule. They planned around me, around my meetings, around Layla's visits, around the things I had told her in confidence. I'll be working late Wednesday. I've got that board meeting Friday morning. She was using my own words to carve out space for him. That was the part that cut deepest. Because it wasn't just cheating. It was strategic. It was organized. She hadn't tripped and fallen into an affair. She built a runway for it. In one message, she even thanked him for helping fold laundry. I couldn't stop smiling after. You folding those towels made me feel so safe. So seen. Towels. Those were my towels. I remembered coming home that night and noticing they were arranged weirdly. Too neat. Folded the way hotel staff do it, not like how we normally do it. Halfway, then thirds. I had thought maybe Marcy was trying a new organizing trend. Maybe she saw something on TikTok. Turns out, G just had strong hospitality instincts. The more I read, the clearer it became. This wasn't a fling. This wasn't some abstract emotional affair you could chalk up to loneliness or rough patches. This was practiced. Routine. Domestic. They had jokes. Rituals. Playlists they sent back and forth. He once texted, "Can't wait to hear you humming that stupid Fleetwood Mac song again while brushing your teeth." That was our song. Or at least, it used to be. I sat there in silence, the house still asleep around me, Marcy's hairdryer humming faintly upstairs. I could picture her, maybe doing her makeup, maybe texting him right now from the bathroom, thumbs flying while I sat here, watching a ghost version of her live a second life on my screen. I didn't know who he was. Gee, that's all I had. A single initial. No face. No details. But he had been inside my home. On my furniture. In my life. And she hadn't just let him in. She welcomed him. She made space for him. She gave him the keys. I scrolled back further in the messages. There were mentions of a friend covering for her. A woman named Kara, apparently in on the lie, or at least complicit. Told him I was with Kara again. She's cool with covering for me. I owe her so many drinks. So even the fake alibis were built on a foundation of half-truths. Kara was real. The drinks were probably real. But the timing, the purpose, all fake. There was even a moment when she almost got caught. She told G that Layla had nearly walked in on them one weekend when I was out grabbing mulch. She wrote. I panicked. Told her I was testing a new facial oil with a friend. I think she bought it. I remembered that Saturday. Layla had stopped by to pick up a package. She'd texted me afterwards saying Mom seemed weird, like she was trying too hard to act normal. She'd noticed. She just didn't have the puzzle pieces. Neither did I. Not until now. Eventually, I closed the laptop. Not because I was done, but because I couldn't breathe. The air felt thick, like it was pressing against my lungs. I walked out onto the porch in my socks and stood in the morning light, the world still turning like nothing had changed. But everything had. I had evidence now. Not just a suspicion. not just a reflection in a mirror. The betrayal had a timestamp, a sender, a history, and it had a name, even if I didn't know his face yet. Gee, whoever he was, he had already built a life inside mine, and Marcy had helped him furnish it that I didn't confront her. Not yet. After reading through those messages, I expected myself to feel something sharper. Rage, maybe. The kind of volcanic anger you see in movies when someone flips a table or screams, "How could you?" across a room. But I didn't feel that. What I felt was colder, more precise, like the moment a surgeon puts on gloves. I wasn't looking for a fight. I was looking for clarity. Because now that I knew, I needed to see it. Really see it, not just in messages or memory. I needed the kind of confirmation that couldn't be explained away or rationalized into oblivion. So I went looking. Our family cloud account, the one we'd both ignored for years, was linked to her old iPad. It had mostly been used for Layla's cartoons back in the day, and for a while after that, as a backup photo hub. Marcy had set it up before syncing her phone to her new account, probably forgetting what still lived in the digital attic. I knew the login. Same one we used when we went to Maui. Once inside, I clicked through folders named Vakui, recipes, Layla school stuff, random. Most of it was harmless. Pictures of beach sunsets, blurry dinners, **TS of shoes she never bought. But then I found one buried in a folder labeled simply miscellaneous, a single image. No description, no tags, no duplicates. Just one lonely file buried beneath years of digital dust. I clicked. It was our kitchen. The lighting was dim, warm, ambient, like during dinner or late-night wine. At first, it looked innocent. 2 half-empty wine glasses sat near a dish of pasta. One plate was mostly eaten, the other barely touched. Napkins unfolded. A linen runner on the table, the kind Marcy insisted on using even though it made no difference to the actual meal. Then, in the foreground, a hand. A man's hand. Not mine. It wasn't just the way it looked, though it was obvious. Thicker fingers, a darker tone, a silver ring I'd never seen, and a faint tattoo at the edge of the wrist, just barely peeking out from beneath the sleeve of a soft, navy sweater. He was holding a fork midair, as if frozen in the middle of a laugh or a story. There was comfort in his posture. Ease. The kind of ease you don't fake. The kind that comes from being somewhere familiar. He'd been here before. That much was obvious. But what really drove it home was the background. Hanging just behind the table, slightly off-center above our sideboard, was a new piece of art Marcy and I had picked out last month, an abstract canvas with soft blues and greens. She said it reminded her of tide pools from her childhood. I remembered holding it against the wall for 20 minutes while she debated frame thickness. That painting had only been up for a few weeks, which meant this photo wasn't old. This wasn't some past mistake or long-gone affair that had ended and left only scars. This was current, active, and it had reached inside the walls of our home. The worst part? The photo wasn't posed. It wasn't S**XY. It wasn't even particularly an asterisk mate. It was casual. That's what gutted me. This wasn't some stolen moment in a hotel room or back seat. This was a Wednesday night dinner in our kitchen. Wine and pasta and napkins, like 1,000 meals we'd shared before. Except this time, I wasn't there. I had been written out of the scene. Replaced. I stared at the photo, trying to decode it. The angle, the light, whether Marcy had taken it or he had. Maybe it was a candid he snapped while she was in the kitchen, laughing. Maybe she sent it to him later, captioned with some inside joke. There was no EXIF data, the kind of metadata that usually tells you time, date, device. It had been stripped, either by accident or on purpose. But the context was unmistakable. That linen napkin? I had just bought it. Ordered it from some overpriced home goods site because she said we didn't have anything neutral enough for company. Guess we had company. I took a **T of the photo and saved it to my own folder, encrypted and password protected. I wasn't sure yet what I'd do with it. Maybe nothing. But I needed to preserve it. I needed to hold on to the reality of it, because if I didn't, I knew I'd be tempted to second-guess myself all over again. That's what betrayal does. It gaslights you even after the evidence is in front of your face. I spent the rest of that morning going back through our kitchen with new eyes. The throw pillow that had been moved from the bench to the floor. I used to think Layla had knocked it down. The extra wine glass in the dishwasher. I'd chalked it up to forgetting my own. The time she asked me to pick up fresh basil and then said she never used it. I figured she changed the recipe. Now it all clicked. Not in a dramatic way. There were no lipstick stains or hotel receipts or stranger's cologne on the bedsheets. It was subtler than that. More dangerous. It was in the casual way she had blended him into the rhythms of our life. Quietly, carefully, as if testing how much the house could hide before it gave her away. And I started to wonder how many versions of this had already played out. How many meals had they shared in my seat? How many stories had they told over our wine? Had he laughed at the same jokes I once did? Had he sat there while she told him about Layla's college essays or my boring staff meetings? Did he know how easily he had been slipped into my life like a stand-in no one thought to question? I went outside to clear my head. The breeze was light, warm. Summer hadn't left yet, but I felt cold. Our neighbor's dog barked across the street. A kid whizzed past on a skateboard. Life kept going. Oblivious. Marcy was in the bedroom now, probably getting dressed. Her footsteps light across the hardwood, as familiar as my own. She didn't know I knew, and I didn't know what to do next. I stood in the yard, watching the light catch in the leaves, thinking about how the world never pauses to let you catch your breath. It just keeps rolling. Oblivious. Merciless. Part of me wanted to storm inside, hold up the photo, and scream, "Explain this." But for what? So she could lie again? So she could tell me it was old? That it was a cousin? That I was being paranoid? I had already seen the truth. Now, I wanted to understand it. Who was he? How long had he been in our home? Why the photo? Was it carelessness? Arrogance? Or was it a message? I didn't know. But what I did know was this. The affair wasn't a secret anymore. And it wasn't outside our walls. It was already in the kitchen. Already drinking our wine. Already using my fork. 2 days later, our daughter came home with a secret she never meant to uncover. Layla had been away for the weekend. A beach trip with her college friends to celebrate someone's engagement. She texted a few photos, bonfires, a group jumping midair in front of the waves, plastic cups clinking under the sunset. She looked happy, relaxed, just a 22-year-old living her life. And for a moment, I felt this strange sense of peace seeing her like that, untouched by everything unraveling here. But when she got back Sunday evening, I knew something was off. She walked through the door quieter than usual. No dramatic retelling of the trip. No sarcastic comments about her sunburn or the overpriced Airbnb. Just a small wave and a half-hearted "Hey, good trip?" I asked, already bracing for the usual banter. She nodded slowly, dropping her duffel by the stairs. Yeah, it was fun, but her voice didn't match her words. There was something in her face, not anger, not sadness. More like confusion caught in a slow spin. Her eyes kept darting away, landing on things like the floor, the wall, anything that wasn't me or Marcy. She didn't stay long downstairs. Just said she was tired and headed up. Later that night, I found her in the living room, sitting cross-legged on the couch in an oversized hoodie, staring at a printed sheet of paper in her lap. When I walked in, she didn't flinch or hide it. She just looked up and said, "Can I talk to you?" Of course. I sat down next to her, heart already picking up pace. She held the paper out to me, her hands shaking. I didn't plan this," she said. "It was just supposed to be a joke." I took the paper. At first, it didn't register. It looked like one of those ancestry results, a chart of percentages, some colorful bar graphs, a few sections bolded. And then I saw the headline. Paternal match, no genetic relation found. My brain froze. I read it again. Layla's name was printed clearly at the top. The DNA test was from one of those companies that markets itself as a party game. Discover your roots, trace your lineage, compare results with friends. Apparently, one of the bridesmaids had brought a kit to the beach house. They'd laughed, spit into tubes, and joked about discovering long-lost royalty. But Layla didn't laugh when her results came back. Because there, in clear black text, it said I wasn't her biological father. I felt the world slow down. Not stop, not crash, just slow. Like someone pressed their hand into the air around us and thickened it. "Is this a mistake?" I asked, even though I knew it wasn't. She shook her head. I checked twice. Even emailed support. They said the results were conclusive. I stared at the paper. My name wasn't on it anywhere. Of course not. They don't test you unless you send in your own sample. But the report clearly stated there was no paternal match. None. "I didn't know," she whispered. "I didn't expect this. I mean, I've always thought I looked more like Mom, but I never questioned." Her voice cracked. "And mine. I didn't have one. My heart thudded like it wanted to escape my chest. Not because of the science, but because of the math. The timing. The fact that Layla had been born 7 months after our wedding, and we told everyone she was premature. Even our parents. Even ourselves. I remembered the doctor telling us she was small but strong. I remembered how quickly Marcy had gotten pregnant after our engagement, and how she brushed off any doubt with, "You know how fertile the women in my family are." I had believed her. Of course I had. I looked at Layla now, this young woman I had raised. Diaper changes, first steps, scraped knees, spelling bees. That awkward middle school phase when she cut her own bangs and cried for a week. The soccer games. The college tours. The late night, "Dad, can I talk to you about something weird?" moments. She was my daughter. I had never once, not for a single second, questioned that. Until now. She wiped her eyes with the sleeve of her hoodie. I didn't show Mom yet. I didn't know if I should. I didn't answer. I couldn't. My chest was tightening by the second, but I stayed sitting, holding the paper like it might start making sense if I stared hard enough. Like it might change its mind. "Dad?" she said gently, unsure if she still had the right to call me that. I nodded slowly. "Yeah. Are you okay?" No, I wasn't. But I nodded again anyway. "Of course," I said. "I'm just surprised." She leaned into me then, head on my shoulder like she did when she was 5 and scared of thunderstorms. And I wrapped an arm around her, because whatever else this paper said, that hadn't changed. Not for me. But somewhere upstairs, I could hear Marcy moving around. In the bedroom, humming a tune I didn't recognize. Probably getting ready for bed. Probably unaware that downstairs, the life she had built was cracking at the foundation. Layla stayed there for a long time. Neither of us spoke. Eventually, she went up to bed, the paper still folded in her hand. I sat in the dark after she left, and I thought about everything I'd accepted without question. The robe, the wine, the reflection in the mirror, the ghost of a man standing in my house, slipping through the cracks of my life. But this was different. This wasn't just about betrayal. This was about the past. A past I thought I had lived honestly. A past where I held my newborn daughter in a hospital room with tears in my eyes, whispering promises into her tiny ear. And now I had to live with the knowledge that every photo, every memory, every milestone had been built on a lie I didn't even know to look for. Marcy had made a choice 22 years ago,